All right, welcome to our Git workshop. We're very excited to give the Git workshop. Git is one of the most important tools that you can know as a software engineer. You're going to use it at pretty much every place you work at, unless you work at Facebook, as I don't think they use Git, they use their own thing. But anywhere else you go, you're going to use Git. Does anyone know what Git is? Okay, a few hands. What is it?
It's sort of an infrastructure you can share files and stuff.
Exactly, a way to share files. It's a version control system. So it allows you to work very easy with teammates. And additionally, it also helps you keep track of your own code. So if you make a change and it breaks everything, Git makes it really easy for you to go back to when it was stable. So I found even when I'm working in like personal projects with no one else, I'll also use Git just to kind of keep track of my own work and keep everything organized. So super important skill, very good to have it. And like I said, you're going to be using this for the rest of your software career. And even if you go somewhere like Facebook where they, for some reason, don't use Git, then the concepts behind version control that you learn here will also carry over and be applicable. So real quick overview at what we're going to be doing today. First of all, to give a brief intro, I'm going to show you how to use the shell, so getting comfortable in the terminal, and a few simple bash commands so you can navigate around in your terminal. And then we'll do a dive into Git. And we'll also go ahead and set up a GitHub website. Does everyone have a GitHub account set up? It was part of the pre-work. Yes? Okay, awesome. If not, we can also do it during the presentation. But I'm going to show you how you can actually host the website on GitHub so that you can maybe make a little portfolio and show off some of your work. Does anyone have a personal website on GitHub right now? Oh, awesome, cool. Okay, that means we'll have lots of new websites tonight. Yeah, and at any time, if you have any questions or you have any problems, you can go ahead and raise your hand and a hack organizer will come to you. Or you can also message in our workshop channel on Discord. So if you have any problems, especially for those of you joining us virtually on Zoom, if you have any issues, you can comment in the workshops channel. This is a link to join our Discord over here. You can also find the Discord on our hack website under the About page. Yeah, go ahead and ask. We want to make sure that everyone is keeping up and feels comfortable and doesn't get left behind. So if you have any questions, please ask. Don't be lost. We're here to help. Any questions before we get started? All right, awesome. Let's dive into it. So real quick intros. My name is Chase Carnaroli. My pronouns are he, him, his. I'm a fourth-year CS major, and I'm an organizer here at Hack UCI. I work on both the logistics and the tech team. I've been in Hack. This is my second year now. I love Hack, great org, give on great workshops, put on great events. So I hope that you keep coming out and learn some stuff from us this year and have some fun. I spent the summer at Amazon. I was working on Alexa. Previously, I had internships at Khan Academy and another startup in Irvine. And then post-grad, I'll be going to Khan Academy in the Bay Area to work there as a software engineer. And all these places use Git. So it was very helpful to know, which is why we're learning it tonight. I'm also the tech lead for Ant Almanac, so I help supervise the team that creates that site. If you want to help out with Ant Almanac, we're actually recruiting right now for the ICSSC Projects Committee. That's a whole different club. I'm from San Diego, California, and I think that's all the facts about me. Let's go ahead and dive into the workshop today. So first of all, before we can even get started with Git, we want to get comfortable with the command line. Has anyone ever used the command line before, the terminal? Nice. I love using the terminal because it looks very hackery. I feel like one of those hackers in the movie when I'm in the terminal. What it is, it's basically a way for you to interact with your computer. So instead of using a mouse to click on like icons like normal people do, you can be a hacker and work with the shell. The shell is a text interface for you to communicate with your computer. So you give commands to the shell and the shell will give you some sort of response back. You can almost think of it like an adventure game, one of those text adventure games, where it gives you a prompt and then you got to respond to that prompt and then the next action happens. It's very similar to that because everything is just navigating based on text. I'm actually going to pull up my terminal over here. Let's get this next to, let's make sure it's still working. Okay. So this is my terminal over here on the left side. It might look slightly different than yours, especially the colors of it, but that's fine. Right now I'm using OpenLab's terminal. So OpenLab is a tool you'll probably use in some of your later CS classes. But yeah, I'll be typing stuff here as I go along. And you should also be following along on your computer. So make sure you got your terminal open. I also recommend that you maybe open a little text document so you can take notes of the different commands that we learned here today before we jump into Git. These commands are going to help you navigate through your terminal. So it's important to know them, important to understand them. So like I said, we're going to go through each of these 8 commands here today. There's so many, there's tons of them to learn, but these are some of the core ones that you'll probably want to know. Do these commands look familiar to anyone, or are we all starting from scratch? Nice. Okay, some familiarity. Nice, awesome, good to hear. Cool. Okay. Well, does everyone have their terminal open and ready to go? All right. So the first command we're going to learn is pwd. This stands for print working directory. And it shows you like where you are. So you can, and when you think of it in terms of like rooms, like the text adventure game, if text adventure game, you're going to different rooms, you can think of the terminal the same thing. And print working directory shows you how you got to that room. So if I type this into my terminal right now and hit enter, it'll tell me I'm in home, and then inside that home folder, I'm in a folder called this. It's going to look different on your computer depending on what system you're using. But if you type pwd, it'll show you exactly where you are in your terminal. So that's the first command. Just kind of get your bearings. Yes, question. Okay, awesome. Moving on to the next one then. ls. ls is short for list. And this shows you what files and subdirectories you have. So if I go ahead and type ls into my terminal right now, I can see all the different files and folders that I have here. You can also add some different flags to color things. So if I do like ls dash, I think it's G. Oh, yeah, question? Yes, okay, so actually that's a really good point to make. The question was for Windows, it'd be dir. Today, we're going to be focusing solely on a Unix operating systems shell. So if you have Git bash installed, these commands will be relevant for that. We won't be going over the Windows commands because pretty much every server you use is going to be Linux based. So it's important to know these commands. So Mac and Linux use the similar commands. Yeah, so if you have a Windows device, you should be using Git bash, and that can be, instructions on how to install that are on the pre-work page. Okay, awesome, nice. All right, sorry. So yeah, as I said, ls is going to be short for list. That'll show you all the different folders and files that are inside of your room. So when you think of it in terms of the room context, it's like, what's here, what's inside? The next command we're going to learn is make dir. So make dir is how you make a directory. Directory is another word for folder. So now I have all my stuff here. If I want to make a new folder, like I'm going to make one for this demo today. So I'm going to go make dir, and then I'll call it dir1. So this will be the directory that I'm using for this demo today. I hit enter. Now you'll see that the command went through. And if I do ls again, this time in my output, I should see, hey, there's the one I just made. So has everyone been able to make a directory? Any problems making directories? Okay, cool. And like I said, if you have any issues during the presentation, just raise your hand. We'll have an organizer come out, or you can message in the workshops channel on our Discord. Give me 1 second. I realize I don't have the Discord open, so I'm not seeing those questions. Okay, cool. So now we have our new directory. How do we actually move into that room? Well, we're going to use the cd command for that. So to change directories, it's cd, and that's how you go into another room. In this case, I want to go into this new directory I just created. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go cd, and then I'm going to start to type out dir1. Something cool with the terminal is you can usually hit tab and it'll autocomplete. So as I'm starting to type dir, I can like hit tab and it'll autocomplete for me. So why don't everyone go ahead and cd, and let's go into that room. All right. Now, how do we check if I actually cd'd in? Does anyone remember the command to see where you're at? pwd, exactly. So let's try it. pwd, and you can see, yep, I'm home, Carnaroli, and then now I'm in dir1. So we successfully moved into the room. You can also jump like multiple steps. So, question? All right. Hey, Riley, could I have you help him out in the back? Thank you. You can also jump multiple directories. So like, let's say you want to move through like 3 or 4 rooms at a time and keep going deeper. You can type them one after another. So if there was another directory inside dir, I could go into that one and then that one and keep going further. So you can jump more than one at a time. Does anyone know what this ... might do? What cd ... does? Yeah, parent directory, nice. So when you type cd ... it's going to bring you back a room. So now if I go pwd, you'll see I'm back where I was before. So that's how you jump backwards. I'm going to go back inside dir real quick. The other thing you can do is just type cd by itself. And when you do that, it will bring you back to like your very first starting point. So when I do cd, it's going to bring me back to where I was at the beginning in that Carnaroli file. But if I was like 10 directories down and I hit cd again, it would also bring me back to the starting point. So cd with nothing else after it is just a way to bring you all the way home to where you started. Okay, let's go back into dir. Next command. Any questions on the command we have so far? Cool. All right, next up we got where is she? This might be out of order. Yeah, okay, sorry. I want to show this command first. Touch. Touch is how you create a new file. So in this case, I'm gonna go touch and let's call it file1.txt. When I do this, I've just created a new file. So now if I go ls again to show what's in my room, you'll see file1 now exists. So that's how you create a new file. Also, as you can go ahead and move files around too. So the mv command is how you move files. Let's say I want to move this files1 text back out to the parent directory. So bring it back a level, go back one folder, go back one room. The way I would do that is I would go move. I would type out the file name and then ... to send it back to the parent. And if I go back to my home directory, oops, we'll see that file1 text is here. All right. Now I've just moved it to the parent directory. I'm going to move it back. I'm kind of juggling things around right now. So it's okay if you're not moving things with me. I'm just showing you how it goes. So if I wanted to put it back into the dir1 directory, how would I do that? Any suggestions? Exactly. So when I do that, now I can go ahead, go back into dir, and I'll see that it's still there. Nice. So this is how you move files around if you need to do that. Usually you don't need to move files, but it's good to know how to. The other thing we wanted to show you is just how to copy a file. So if I wanted to make a copy of a file, instead of moving it, I wanted to actually make a duplicate of it. What I could do is I could go ahead and use the cp command. We're going to go file1.txt, and then you can tell it what you want to be named for the copy. So I'll do like file1 copy.txt. And now if I hit ls, we'll see I got file1 copy text and file1 text in my room. You can also copy directories too if you wanted. So if you have a folder you want to copy, you could do that using the -r command. -r means recursive, so it'll do everything recursively and copy all the files for you. I'm not going to do that right now, but if you ever did need to copy a directory, you need to copy that folder, you could do so with the -r command. All right, we already covered touch. Now let's cover remove. So this is how you delete something, and you want to be careful with rm. Because normally when you delete something on your computer, like if you right clicked on something and press the little delete, what it's going to do is move that into a folder called trash. But it's not actually gone from your computer. You can always take it out of the trash later, right? When you do remove, like it is gone. You are wiping that thing from the face of the earth. So you want to make sure that when you use rm, you are removing the file that you actually want to. So I'm going to go ahead and do rm file1 copy and delete that one. Oh yeah, so sometimes your operating system will even ask you, like, are you sure you want to delete this? And yes, I do. So I'm going to type Y. All right, now if I go ls again, we'll see that I only have file1 here. So file1 copy has been absolutely wiped. You can think of it as like taking out the object of the flamethrower because you are not getting it back. Some other rm commands we wanted to tell you about, but I don't want to use tonight, are the -r for direct directories. So if you want to delete an entire folder, you can do the -R and it'll delete everything inside of it. The other one, and I want to emphasize, you need to be very careful with this, is the star command. The star command says to delete everything in my current directory and like everything within it. So if you got folders in there, it'll keep going down and just keep wiping everything below that point. You need to be very careful when you're doing this because it is very easy to wipe out your entire operating system. Yes, question?
Yeah, so what if we don't include the -R?
Question was, what happens if you don't include the -R? So in that case, it won't do it recursively. It won't go down. So like, let's say I have a folder with 3 items in it. -R is going to go through and delete each of those items within the folder too. Whereas if you don't include it, so if I just deleted a single text file, I wouldn't include the -R because there's nothing else to delete besides the file. So -R is only used for folders. Yeah, good question. Real quick, just want to emphasize again, be careful with the star. It happens to the best of us. Even like the previous hack director he was in charge of our tech team and our logistics team. He did this once on his computer and like, he was like, this is kind of taking a while. And he realized it was like slowly like wiping out his entire like operating system and it bricked his computer. So yeah, be careful when you use the star. Honestly, I'd never use star. I just avoid it. But we want you to know that it exists so you can avoid it, if that makes sense. Cool. All right, I think that was enough warning for the star. Let's move on. So as a summary, these are the commands that we learned. We learned the print working directory. We learned list, make directory to create a folder. We learned how to change directories to hop into folders. And then we also learned how to move and copy files, remove files, and create new ones with touch. Any questions on the commands that we went over today? Awesome. So now that we've gone over the basic commands so that you feel comfortable jumping around, navigating in your terminal, we're going to go ahead and jump into Git. But I want to emphasize too, like for the terminal, like this is a lifelong learning. I encourage you to go home and play around, jumping between your folders and files and getting comfortable moving around in the terminal, because just like Git, the terminal is a skill that's going to be very useful for you through the rest of your software career. I feel like in a lot of these classes that we take, you can kind of learn it for a quarter and then just like wipe it out of your memory after you get the grade. But like Git and terminal are 2 things that like you need to know and will consistently come up throughout your career. All right, back to Git. Let's hop into it. For Git, does anyone know, like, oh, we already asked what Git was. And I guess the slide, I was going to ask if anyone knew who created it, but the slide gave it away. Git was created by Linus Torvalds. He was also the one who created the Linux kernel. Like, this guy is probably one of the most influential humans in history that no one knows about. But like, he's the core of pretty much all computing nowadays. Really great guy. He's in his 50s, has some very strong, interesting opinions, but he's made a lot of contributions to computing, and he's put it all out there for free. So Git and Linux, those are all completely free. Back to Git though, Git is a distributed version control system for tracking changes in the source code, and it allows many programmers to work on the same project at the same time. This is why pretty much every company uses it. One, they can track the versions of the code to make sure that they're not like messing things up as they go along, and it allows lots of people to work on it at the same time. Today, we're mainly just going to be showing how to use it. We won't show too much of the collaboration aspect of it, but we will go deeper into it at the end of the presentation. All right, this was in the pre-work, but your computer should have Git downloaded on it. If you are on Mac, then I believe it should be pre-installed anyways. For Windows, you might have to go to this website right here to actually download Git onto your device. If you already have Git Bash installed and you've been following along, then I think you should be all set. But if you do have any issues actually getting Git working, like I said, raise your hand and we'll send an organizer over to go help out. All right. We are going to be learning a ton of Git commands today. It's okay if you don't remember them all. There are 3 or 4 core ones you actually need to know, and the rest will just come as you become more comfortable with Git. Up here at the front, we also have tons of like booklets and guides on Git from GitHub. So I definitely encourage you to take maybe a cheat sheet on your way out so you can remember these commands. But let's go ahead and let's dive into the first one. So Git Config. You probably won't need to use Git Config after tonight, but we wanted to use it to show off. Oh no. My session expired on Open Lab, so I'm going to restart this in a sec. Okay, I'll come back to that in a minute. But for Git Config, this basically allows you to set like your name and your email and some settings associated with the account. And the reason why you want to do this is when you're working on GitHub or in Teams, when you look at the history, the version history of the project you've been working on, you want your name to show up for the code that you did. So we are going to go ahead and do that. If I can connect to ICS. Give me 1 second. I'm sorry. It looks like OpenLab might be down. Well, okay. OpenLab went down. For those that don't know, OpenLab is our school server. So lots of CS students use it for personal projects. And it's basically like they can jump into a server that's here hosted in the ICS building and work on stuff on one of their machines as opposed to their own personal device. But it looks like it's not working. So I'm going to do the rest of this from my computer. The layout of my terminal might look a little weird because I've customized it to the way I like it. But that's not super important. What's more important is the commands that I'm typing in. So don't worry too much about how things are formatted. All right. So first off, we're going to do the git config command. So git config global user dot name, and then you're going to go ahead and type your name in there. And when you hit enter, I'm not just going to enter it. It'll go through and it'll set your name for Git. So now in the future commits, it'll be your name associated with it. We can do the same thing with your email. I would argue your email is actually more important than your name because this is what's actually like when you want to search for a user, this is what it would actually like search through. So it's important that you use the email that you're going to associate with your GitHub account. So like my email is like chasecarnaroli@gmail.com. Don't put your UCI one unless you're using your UCI one on your GitHub account. Does that make sense? Cool. Like I said, you won't have to do this every time. We're just doing this the very first time to get you set up and rolling. All right, you can also go ahead and do git config global init default branch main. There's some context to this one. Historically, the branch naming scheme for Git, we have different branches that you work on so you can have like different versions of the same product all at the same time. And historically, the main branch was always called master. But master had some problematic historical names tied to it. So recently the software industry has been moving away from master and using main instead to indicate like what the default main branch is. So what this line of code right here does is it tells your computer, hey, I'm always going to want to start my project and have the main branch be called main instead of master. Yeah. All right. I'll try to go into OpenLab one more time. Oops. Oh, there we go. Okay, OpenLab's back up. Nice. All right. Cool. All right. Now, when you create a new project and you're using Git, that project is going to be known as the Git repo, the repository. And the repository is where all the code for your project is kept placed. This repository can be copied to multiple different machines. So different people are working on the same code base at the same time. And then you can also have a local version of it on your machine. I'm going to go ahead and start just a new, you don't have to follow this right now, but I'm going to start a new Git repository. And now we'll see that I have a .git folder. I've just created a new Git repository. And inside here, we have our .git folder, and that's where everything is hosted. So all the information about the commits, all the version history, where our remote locations are, and other metadata associated with the project. It's all in this Git folder right here. You don't want to touch your Git folder. Just leave it alone. Leave it be. But that's just for some reference. That's where all the information is stored. Now, I've mentioned remote location, remote repository a few times. Does anyone know what that is? Cool, because the next slide is about it. The remote repository is like the central location for the code that's not on your machine. You can think of it almost like a backup. So in this diagram right here, let me make this a little bit bigger. you can be working on your project's repository locally on your computer, and then you can also have a remote repository associated with it. So this remote repository will be where like your backup is, and you can update the remote repository with the latest version of the code. If other people work on it, then you can then pull down that code changes. So the idea is if you have multiple people working on it, they're all just hitting that same like central like backup. Like that is the source of truth for the project, and everyone's making copies of that source of truth, making their changes, and then pushing those changes back up. So that's like the central hub for where your project lives, and it's known as the remote. The most common example of this is GitHub, which is what we're going to be working with in just a bit. So there's other ones as well. There's GitLab. I'm blanking on other ones. Oh, Bitbucket, that's one as well. But pretty much GitHub like is going to be your gold standard. When you have a resume, you're going to want to put your GitHub on there because that's where you'll want to show off the different projects that you've been working on. So GitHub is an example of a remote repository, somewhere where you keep your code safe. Now, next up, we're actually going to go ahead and create a website on GitHub. So if I can have everyone go to their GitHubs, does everyone have one set up? Does anyone need a little bit more time to create their GitHub? Okay, cool. So GitHub has this really nice feature where you can create your own personal website and host it on there. I already have one on here, so I'm going to create a duplicate. But the way it works is you want to name the repository the very same name as your profile. So I'm going to show you how to create a repository right now. Is everyone on this page on GitHub and can see the little plus sign right here? So if you go to GitHub, you press that plus sign, and you're going to select New Repository. All right, it'll take you to this page right here. And then now you're going to type in your repository name. So this name that you're doing right now, it should be the name of your username. So like if I were to do this, I would go like chasec99 and then .github.io. It's not going to work for me because I already have one set up. But for you, you want to type in your username and then github.io. I'll give you a sec to do that. All right. So for me, I'm just going to call mine though, like hack git demo. All right. When you're ready, you have yours named. Like I said, it should be your username.github.io. Username.github.io. When you're ready, make sure it's public, and then let's go ahead and create your repository. After you create your repository, you should see a screen pop up like this, and it should be your new thing, your new repository right there. Like I said, it should be your username.github.io. All right, we're going to take a quick break from this and hop back to the presentation because I'm going to teach you about cloning. Now what we've done is we've recreated a repository here on GitHub, and we want to have that repository on our local machine so we can make changes and edit it locally and then push it back up to the repository later. So the way you do that, the way you initially like create a project on your local machine is by using the git clone command. You'll do this one time at the start of each project, and you don't use it again after that. So you just use it one time for each project. Now, at the top of your new repository, you should see a little link here. It's probably either going to be probably will be HTTPS. So we're going to do is we're going to go copy. Yes, question. Oh, okay. William, can you? Thank you. All right. So you're going to copy your URL for your Git, for your GitHub repository. We're going to go over to our terminal, and we're going to go GitHub or no, not GitHub. Git clone, and then I'm going to paste in the URL for my repository. So we're going git clone. And then we're pasting the URL for the repository, which you can find on the page right here. All right. Then I'm going to hit enter. All right. So now if I do ls to see what's in the room, you'll see that I have a hack Git demo. Yours should be, like I said, your username.github.io. So you should now have this folder inside of your machine, and we're going to go hop into that folder. So I'm going to go cd hack Git demo. Cool. Now that we're in here, if we look, it's going to be empty, right? Because we don't have any files in here yet. So what do we do to create a file? Anyone remember what the command is? Make dir would be for a folder. Yes, touch is how we do a file. It's okay. That one's good to know too if you want to make a folder. But yeah, we're going to use touch. And since we want to create a website, we're just going to touch a file and call it index.html. So touch index.html. I'll give you a second to do that while I make sure we don't have any questions in the chat. All right, cool. Real quick, just on the note of Git clone while we're waiting, there's a second way to create a Git repository. So what we just saw, we created it online and then we pulled it down onto our local machine, we cloned it. You can also just create one locally. So if you don't want to have it online, you just want to set one up locally, you can use Git Init. And I did that a little bit earlier in the presentation, if you remember. So yeah, Git Init is another way to create a repository if you want to do it locally, but you don't have to do both of them. You would do one. So if you're cloning one, you would do that. If you want to create one from scratch on your own computer, you would do Git Init. Okay. So we got our index file. And then now what we're going to do is we're going to edit this file and we're going to add some code to it so we can make our website show up. And the way we're going to do this, there's a few different ways. If you have a text editor like Code, VS Code, or what else? I don't know. VS Code is pretty much all I use for subline text. You can also use stuff within the terminal too. So Vim or Nano. Did I hear Vim over there? Oh, I thought someone said Vim. Oh, you did? Nice. I love Vim. Vim's what I'm going to be using today. But if you have something you're more comfortable with, you can use that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go vim index.html. And you should see a little text editor pop up. Now, I'm going to warn you, Vim is not the most user-friendly to start. So that's why I said if you have like your own you want to use, like Code or Sublime, you can use that. But we're going to teach you a little bit of Vim tonight too. So Vim, what I'm going to do is I'm going to press the I button. And what I does, it tells the program I'm ready to start typing. And now I'm going to add my code here. So I want to make just a very, very simple web page. So I'm going to go HTML. And then we're going to do our closing tag for HTML. And let's just throw like one header on it with like your name. So I'll go Chase. And we're going to close that header. Very, very simple web page. But this is what we're going to start with. Okay. Now, to get out of Vim, this is kind of a meme. Like no one knows how to get out of Vim once you're in it. But I'm going to teach you tonight. The way you get out of Vim is you're going to press the escape key. So I'm going to press escape. And then I'm going to press the colon key. And I'm going to go W and hit enter. And when I do that, what I'm doing is I'm saying I'm writing the file. I'm saving that file. Now to escape Vim, I'm going to do Q. Colon Q. And I'm out. So is everyone able to edit that file, add their simple little website, and escape Vim? Okay, sorry if that was a lot all at once. Yeah, like I said, escaping Vim is definitely a meme you'll see in the CS community because people get stuck in there and they don't know how to get out, and you can't just like Control-C to get out. So yeah, it becomes a meme on how to, like you can never escape, but we just learned how to. All right, real quick, I'm going to show that one more time. So if I'm inside of here, what I'm going to do to get out is I'm going to go colon, and then I'm going to do right quit, WQ. That'll get me out of there. Cool. I just want to make sure everyone's on the same page here. Are we all good? Everyone able to create their file with the simple website in there? All right. So now we've added a new file to our repository. And the way you can see that is if you go git status. This is our first git command. All right, so if you do git status, sorry, this isn't formatting very well with my dual screens. But you should see that there is a new untracked file, and that new untracked file is index.html. So we just added, so we can see that that is now there. Now, the most important part, this is the fundamentals of Git. Like these next three commands are so important. There are 3 stages to Git, right? Once you have a file and you want to actually put it into your history, this is how you do it. Oh, I appear to have skipped ahead a bit. Okay, cool. So the first stage is when a file is modified. So we have just changed our file. We've just made some sort of changes to the file in our project. And now that file is modified. It's saved to our computer, but it's not actually saved to the project. It's just saved locally on our computer. So it's in this modified state. And in the modified state, it'll show, or when you do git status, it'll show all of the files that are currently in the modified state. But like I said, this one is not being tracked yet because we just added it. So it's brand new. We need to make sure that Git knows it exists and we'll add it into our project. So the way we do that is using the add command. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go git add index.html. And what this is doing is it's taking the files that's modified, in this case index.html, and it's adding it. So now if I do git status again, it'll say that it's changes to be committed. It's waiting to be committed. You can also add multiple files at the same time. So like, let's say I make a new feature on my website and I touch like 3 or 4 files that I want to change. In this case, I would add all those files at the same time and they'd all be now ready and staged, which is our next step. They would all be ready and staged and waiting to be committed. So we've gone from modified now into staged by using that add command. Yeah, so just quick info on the stage state. This is when everything is sitting there, is waiting to be included in the next commit. It's almost as if like you're taking a box and you're starting to put stuff into it. You're not shipping the box immediately, but you're putting stuff inside of the box and waiting to package it up. Yes, question?
So like just make
Mhm.
you would edit, let's say you edited 3 files.
Yes.
You would then add them, then move on to the next step, or do you add them individually?
You could do git add 3 times, or you could add them all in one line by doing git add and list all the files you want to do. But yeah, the key is to move it into that stage point. So like, you can add something and then even make more changes and then add it again if you'd like. But yeah, that's a great question. You just keep adding stuff into your box. You're not sending it off yet. You're just adding it and you're getting ready to ship it. Now, let's say we've added all the stuff in and everything that's staged is ready to be shipped off and put into our project history. The next step is going to be committing it. So the commit is like you're sealing that box up and you're moving it from the stage point into the committed state. When you commit something, you're like writing it into the history of the project. So like when you're looking at all the changes in your project, that'll be like a note in it. Like that'll be like, I made this change here. So what we're going to do is we're going to go git commit -m. -m means that you're going to add a message, and we'll say added index file. So I'm going to hit enter. Now, if we do git status again, we'll see that there's nothing to commit. Everything's good because that file we changed, it's already in the history. So there's no new changes here. It's there. It's waiting, ready to go. And I can actually see this by using Git Log. So if I type Git Log, we'll see the last commit where I added my index file. So this is how you see the history of the project using that Git Log. All right. So yeah, as I mentioned before, this committed stage is when you've put the files all together, you've grouped them up, and you've associated a message with that change. You've packed up that box, you've shipped it off, and it's now in the history. And this here says that you can think of it almost like a building block. Each thing you commit is like you building onto your project. And the really cool thing with Git, which we might have a chance to go into later today if we have time, is you can jump between previous versions. So like, let's say I make 10 commits, I make 10 different changes. So I'm like, actually, I want to go back to where I was before. it's really easy for you to jump back to any change and start new from that point on. So Git makes it really easy for you to go through your old previous history, which is really nice. Okay, so we're going to go back over the steps. You've just created your file. What do you do now to stage it? What's the command that you do? Yes, Git Add. And then what? Now it's staged and it's waiting to go. What command do you use to package it up? Git commit, exactly, yes. All right, so now we have this on our local machine. We have our changes here, but GitHub doesn't have it. If I go back to GitHub right now and I refresh, you'll see my changes aren't there because GitHub doesn't know it exists. And this is where the push command comes in. So what we want to do now is push our branch back to GitHub. So GitHub, our remote repository, knows it exists. I'm going to go ahead and go git push. Now, if you're doing this for the first time on your computer, it's going to ask you for your username and password. Oh boy, do I know my password? Uh-oh. Oh no. Okay, I need to look up my password really quick. I haven't done it on this computer yet. Hang tight. While I'm doing this, make sure you and your neighbor have both staged and committed your files and you're ready to go. Okay, I'm having issues with my Git account on OpenLab, so I'm going to jump back to my personal computer real quick and catch up to where we were. So just ignore me for 2 seconds. Okay, sorry, now I've caught up on my own computer. Is everyone good? I think there's been a few conversations going around. Is everyone good with their neighbors and gotten to this point now where we're able to push? Has anyone had any issues pushing, maybe with authentication? Yeah? What are the issues we're seeing with authentication?
I can't do it remote.
Were you seeing an error like this?
Yeah.
Okay. Is anyone else seeing an error like that where it says support for password authentication was removed?
Yeah, I'm seeing that.
Okay.
I think that's just because
Gotcha. Okay, so it's possible that you can no longer do passwords with GitHub and you might need to use SSH, which is a whole other step that we would need to go into. We're very short on time. You know, I think it might be valuable actually just to learn how to add SSH. William, what do you think? Are we good on time? Okay. So I guess what we'll do then, I'm going to finish this off on my computer. And then if you want to stick around, we can have Hack Organizers show you how to get SSH set up and push this to your own computer. That makes sense. Okay. So yeah, we'll stick around for another hour afterwards, after the workshop's over, for you to answer any questions you might have. And we'll also send out an email update with the steps on how to do SSH. Sorry, I didn't realize they removed passwords. Yeah, I guess they did that very recently, August 13th. Okay. All right, well, I'm going to show you what I did real quick. We went ahead and we pushed. So we did git push, and that sent it off to GitHub. And now when I refresh, we'll see that my index.html file is here. GitHub, like I said, can host a personal website. So if you go under the pages section on GitHub, once you're able to, actually, you know what, real quick, I feel like we could show off the pages without doing the local repository. So what we're gonna do real quick, actually, if everyone goes back to their GitHub page, when you saw that page you're on before, the very bottom, there should be a little button that says create a new file. So I want everyone to go ahead and go to their GitHub page and do that. Create new file. Yeah, I'll show you how to do it too in a sec. Yeah, so we're going to create a new file, call it index.html, and let's go ahead and add back our little website right there. All right, I'm going to go ahead and commit it. So what we've done is we've added this file with our simple little website, and we're committing it. And now we can go ahead and set up GitHub pages. Is everyone to be able to create a simple index.html file on their project on GitHub? It's okay if you're not doing it on your terminal. We can just do it here on GitHub. Let me make this a little bigger for you. All right. So once we have our index file added to our GitHub repository, we're going to go into settings. We're going to scroll down to pages, and you can go ahead and create a brand new GitHub page. So I'm going to hit save there. And then it should tell you your site is published. And it'll give you a little link to view it at. So for me, I have my name because I have a URL associated with my GitHub. But for you, it'll be your username.github.io. And when we click that, you'll see Chase popped up. All right. Has anyone been able to get their website to show up? Okay, hands in the back, nice. Like I said, it's okay if you don't have it up yet. We'll walk around and we'll help you out with that. All right, we are now at time. I'm going to do a quick summary of what we learned today. We learned how to navigate around the terminal. We learned the very basics of Git, so the three stages, modified, staged, and then committed. And then we also learned a little bit about GitHub and how you can show off your own GitHub pages. Like I said, we'll stick around for the next hour or so and help you get your page set up so that when you leave here today, you should have a very simple website with a URL you can show anyone that'll have your name on it. All right, so question in the Zoom chat asking where to find the pages button. I'll show that real quick. So if you go into settings, so if you're on GitHub in your repository, click on settings right here, and then scroll on down over here on the left side, you'll see a button called pages. All right, and we'll go ahead and create it there. All right. At this point, we're going to stop the Zoom recording, but we'll have some organizers hang on Zoom as well if any of you have follow-up questions here. And then for those of you in the room, you're welcome to hang out for a bit and ask more questions so we can get you to a finalized state. Sorry again that we ran into a little issue with GitHub's passwords, but appreciate your patience. Also, we wanted to do a quick feedback form on how we can improve this workshop in the future. Oh, okay, go down here. Real quick, Pub, we have an upcoming event on Monday, October 18th. we'll be doing a fundraiser. Oh, let me share this real quick. We'll be doing a fundraiser on Ring Road, so come by, get some ramen. It's gonna be really yummy. Then we also next week we're gonna have an interview workshop and an intern panel. So if you'd like to try to get an internship, we're gonna have people coming out that have had lots of great internships beforehand, and they'll share some of their experience, and we'll also teach you how to ace an interview. So come on out next week, and we'll try to get you set up and good to go for that. Hope to see you then. And then, as always, here's all of our links and social media. You can join our mailing list. And then, like I said, you can also provide feedback on this workshop on how we can improve in the future. I apologize again, that was a little rocky with GitHub's passwords. But like I said, we'll stick around for an hour or so to help answer any questions that you might have. All right, I'm going to stop the recording here. And yeah, have a great night.